podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
This is the Mall Street Journal.
Hello and welcome to the Mall Street Journal, the podcast that brings you all the latest news and reviews for all things American rugby. We are part of the Global Gainline Network and can be found on all your usual platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. So if you haven't already, give us a like or a subscribe, tell a couple of friends about us, or just write a nice note on a plane ticket to England with a World Cup final ticket attached and pop it into my mailbox. I know I used that last week, but I'm still kind of hoping that happens. This, of course,
and you're going to keep getting it until he gets the mail.
Exactly. There's one way you can put a stop to this, listeners. This is, of course, episode 10. You may recall I'm David Lawrence. I'm joined, as always, by the full squad. Coming to us from the Lone Star State is Kolya. Kolya, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty good. A little hot, but pretty good. It is slightly cooler than it's been recently.
I was going to say I had heard that it was going all right.
Yep. Down to 108 or something? For our opening question this week, we're going with, what have you been procrastinating this week?
Who would you like to? Yeah, let's do Kolya.
What have I been procrastinating this week? Coming up with an answer to this question.
Well, we'll give you a second.
Meta
Actually,
answer.
We can. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. The
So,
snake ate its tail on that one.
So the teachers at my school are all part of a book club, and we're reading, and the last 3 books have been books that are not really my thing, but we're supposed to meet at the end of the month, and I've read maybe 50 pages of this book.
Will you tell us what the title is?
Yeah, what is the title? I'm curious.
It's that young adult Aragon book from 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. So they're really demanding of you. I was worried
Yes.
it was going to be they're doing some Colleen Hoover or something where it's book
No.
talk. Okay.
Of course, coming to us from the Show Me State, it's Julia. Julia, how the heck are you?
That's exactly what Virginia is. Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. And from here in St. Louis, where I am, my procrastination is unfortunately going to give away that I am not, in fact, in Missouri. My procrastination is a real foolish one for me and my family. Hate to admit this one, but we are every year attenders of the Maryland Renaissance Fair. In my opinion, and I am one who's attended as many as I could, Maryland is definitely one of the best. There are a lot of great ones in America. Anybody who travels to America, if you manage to come in the late summer, early fall, and you're in a state, especially on the East Coast, look up if you have a Renaissance Fair near you or a Renaissance Festival near you. Go to it if you have one, and there's several weekends. So we always go to Maryland every year. This year we decided, or not really we decided, we got invited by some dear friends to go with a large group, and they purchased all the tickets for their group. We go all the time. We know about how this Renaissance Fair goes. Usually you can buy them 2 or 3 weeks out and you're totally fine. Nope. Fully sold out for the entire season. We today, in fact, when David told us what the question was going to be, we're in the middle of figuring out and this is going to be a very American reference, does StubHub have it? They do, for 3 times the face amount.
Really?
And we paid it because we want to go. It's so much fun. It's totally worth it, but it is outstanding. And we do expect those dear friends who are 110% not listening to this podcast, we will be having you buy the beer.
Do you dress up?
So and also because my wife will never listen to this, I can give her away. My wife in high school and early adulthood made corsets and other Renaissance type fare for other people. She's a very talented seamstress as well. She makes stuff, so has in the past. We don't anymore because we have decided that once we crested, and this is gonna give it away, but once we crested 35, we were either you're a Renaissance Festival person or you're doing other things. And unfortunately at the time we were doing other things. And so I would love to go back to being that person. I just feel at this point, if I were to dive in, it would be inauthentic. Are you a Renaissance Fair guy?
I have not been to one for years, but I know people who
But
are.
yeah, I was gonna say, but you are tangential to the circle.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
the Texas one is supposed to be the biggest one of all. Have you ever been to it? Where is it anyway?
So there's like three of them. The
Yeah,
closest one to me is the Sherwood Forest Fair that I
I've heard of
keep.
it.
that's the one I've heard of.
Yes, yes, but there's also one that has, I think, an HBO documentary about it.
It does. You could
You
tell
love
they
to see
wanted to
it.
make it into Tiger King, and just they went ahead.
Exactly where they were like,
Yes.
look at these free. Okay, but here's the thing, and I'm just gonna because I know also like my wife and all my friends definitely listen to this podcast, HBO executives. If you're gonna make a show about a little freak, it has to be somebody who agrees they're a little freak. Ren Fair people don't think they're weird. It
Mm-mm.
doesn't work. Tiger King knows he's a little freak. Gotta know your market.
It's the most popular one in my region is King Richard's Fair, which has been here forever. I actually worked there one season. My job was basically to walk around with my guitar and get hit on. Interesting
Oh,
job.
so you were a
Uh,
bard.
yes, basically.
Yeah.
And I was Theodoric of York, and but last year it's so overrun and so overcrowded and so overpriced. So we've decided to go to Connecticut this year for a new one that's not as storied, not as big, but it's almost the exact same distance for driving, and it's time for something new. So
I'm surprised there isn't one closer to you. And well, I guess it depends on where in Massachusetts you are. So
the King
that's fair.
Richard's Fair is it's 55 minutes, something like that. So
Oh,
it's not
that's
too
really
bad.
not bad. That's exactly the same distance for us for Maryland. Virginia
Yeah.
has a Renaissance fair. It's nowhere near as good. It's not
And
like
actually, it's kind of pretty down there. It's down on the South Shore, which is cranberry country. So like all the ocean
exactly.
spray, cranberry orchards are there, and it's
Okay,
pretty neat.
so I do know which one you're talking about then. That is also one. So my wife is from the Philadelphia area, has done a bunch of everything up north of her. I haven't because I'm from further south. I've done actually more of the ones in the mid-Atlantic, but that is one I have heard about and might be on my list. You're gonna have to tell me how it is. Ours is also super overpopulated and super overrun,
Mm.
apparently by it selling out 6 weeks ahead.
Well, spoilers for the uninitiated, the turkey legs, not turkey, actually a ham product.
Is that true across the board? Like at most?
If I'm pretty sure
I
it's
feel
definitely the
like
case at King Richard's Fair, and every time I see photos at other places, it looks like the same product.
I agree. So that's what, okay, so that's very interesting. We can go off on a total tangent, but like, are you telling all the Muslims and Jews who come? It's fine. It's fine.
It's a
We're gonna
big
deal with that
question
later.
mark.
It's a big question mark for our country, but
Yes, it's a very different podcast as well.
that's a
Um,
very different podcast.
our tradition is to start with some news. I don't think any of us found too much. Kolya, you came up blanks this week?
Well, or right after we had our podcast last week, there was the MLR draft. William Sherman of UCLA was the first pick off the board, going to Anthem. Three Central Washington University players went in the top
Hmm.
five.
Wow.
Which is really good news for us because we have perennial worries about homegrown talent.
Interesting. And the Central Washington's not on the list of those top sort of rugby programs that we think of, like Life.
No,
Definitely is
no,
for
no.
women.
The first Life player was taken at sixth.
Mm.
No, CW has pumped out a bunch of women's Eagles, not a bunch of men's
Oh.
Eagles.
Oh. Is that what you got?
Yeah, that was my news.
I can't pretend I know anything about those players to add any insight on that, whether that's good news. I imagine this is good news for Anthem and maybe not great news for the player. The
Could be
news I
kind.
found just as we were starting, turns out Andrew Quatrin, Q himself, my Free Jacks, Canadian international, he has signed a short-term deal with the French Pro de Deux club, Valence Romans. That was spoken with an American accent,
That
obviously,
is
but
exactly how you say it. I am
yes,
positive.
that was my northern French accent, of course. Valence Romans, and
You're from New France, like you're from New England.
yes, exactly. I speak Franglais.
From
Um, we are going to miss Q, that is for sure. He's been a stalwart. He's been a big part of our three championships, and a hell of a guy too. He's an absolute goof and hell of a player. So this could be a good step for him.
I'm thrilled to hear it. I love it anytime we hear that there are Eagles succeeding overseas. Pro D2 and all of the French leagues are hard to break into for an American, so super
We've
thrilled to
got
hear it.
some representation in the Pro Day now,
Yeah, absolutely.
a smattering.
Yeah, but I mean, but any at all is really great. It's something we talk about a lot in the women's game. It's way far behind in terms of getting Americans in there. Thrilled to see it. Really hoping for some progress for Q.
Generally because Americans like having insurance and not being beaten to death
And not
Both
being eye
every game.
gouged.
both of those are true. And then for the women, I don't know if it's the same for the men's or like if I maybe I'm just completely out of touch, but a big thing that the women were talking about, at least at one point when they were talking about why they play in PWR versus in France, was because at some point, at least, the teams were kind of like, if you don't have a little bit of French, we really would like rather you not. Like we will, like we'll
Fair.
take you. Yeah, we'll take you if you're like Portia Woodman Wycliffe and you don't speak French, but we're not just gonna take. That was how it was a few years ago. I'm really hoping it's different. And for the men, awesome.
Well, it was a rather unpleasant weekend for USA Rugby. Two big tournaments kicked off, including the Pacific Nations Cup, where our men went up to Canada and put in a truly uninspiring performance, with the word regression being tossed around a lot. Canada went on to win 34-20, but it didn't really feel close like as it unfolded. Julia, did you end up watching this one?
I did, yeah, and I watched it and I worried that my response to it was perhaps colored by my feelings about the USA Rugby program overall. And I also didn't want to let my opinions be completely colored by the women's performance comparative. And also, I don't know about Canada men's that much. I didn't have as great a judgment. So I went looking for public opinion. And what I was hearing overall was a lot of the R word was, oh, don't say the R word. Regression. It was regression was what I was hearing. That's a big concern. One thing I didn't love reading, and I'm hoping it's just from folks who are maybe doomsaying or who are maybe not super familiar with like how World Rugby governs, but some people were saying, what if we're so bad that they take away the World Cup from us? First of all, we have women who are doing okay in the World Cup. We have a whole women's program and they're not going to take one and not the other. Second of all, that's not how it works. It's a whole sport market. But that said, in terms of qualifying, I don't know. What happens if we have a World Cup that we're not in?
Well, we will be in the one we host because that's
Oh,
the
well, of
rule.
course. Yes, of course.
But
Don't know why I
and
thought that.
yeah, I think there's a cycle like every 6 months there's an article saying, what if the US isn't good enough and the World Rugby takes it away? I think that's just clickbait. I've fallen for it a few times.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
what I
It
don't
it also
understand. Yeah.
seems to be largely coming from Australians that I've seen. I don't know why.
I saw this in the USA Rugby subreddit. It seemed like Americans. There were no
Mhm.
extraneous U's.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, that was my that
Or
was my
mullets.
concern. Or I didn't ask them for pictures, but I should have. You should have to show me a picture before you give me a bad opinion.
AJ McGinty's penalty early in the second half, that was the only points we got in the final 40 minutes. Kolya, you had a lot to say about our attack or lack thereof. What were your takeaways from this game?
So I'll start with positives. Dom Bisag
Yep.
played really, really well.
Again.
There was one really good try from a McGinty cross kick about 20 meters out. And Luke Pierce was the ref. Those are my positives.
That was the highlight.
So, negatives. Throughout the first half, it looked like we were hoping to just kind of absorb Canada's emotion when they came out and hope that Canada would fall off in the second half. And the exact opposite happened. It really seemed like we were set up for something. We got immediately punched in the mouth by Canada's early try, and then we were kind of on the back foot the whole first half, trying to recover from that. kind of trying to trade blows with Canada and then hoping that Canada had thrown their best at us.
Right.
And you can see this in what we did or what our starting pack was. Once again, we had a starting pack that wasn't really playing, or half of them weren't playing their best position. But it made us have a much larger pack than Canada, with the idea that we're going to be able to smash them, and in the second half, we'll bring on even more giant people and move our way through. But what ended up, but that only works, if there are scrums, which the first half there weren't very many.
Right.
And second, if your team actually cares, and Canada did, and the US really didn't look like they did.
Yeah.
The US looked like they were thinking, oh, well, this game isn't really that important. We've got Japan, and then we've got the fifth place playoff. Maybe we can beat Samoa or Tonga. And then, oh, we've got the other few tries left to get to the World Cup. Whereas Canada saw this is the one we're going for. We're going to throw everything at it. Ardron had probably his best game of his life, scoring
Yes.
4 tries.
Tyler Ardron, he turned 34 back in June, but I feel like Friday night probably felt like his birthday.
Yeah.
4 tries against us that equaled a Canadian single test record that has stood since 2000. Uh, and like Kolya, what you said, the lack of urgency. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a coaching problem, but where is it?
Everything I read was thinking that it was a coaching problem. It was one of the most uninspired men's scrums I've seen out of USA in years. I think
The
I
things
think
in
what
the
Kolya
press
said is
from the coaching has been great. So this all
I
these
feel like
metaphors about
that's
space and stuff, has it just worn off? Is that no longer resonating for the players?
I honestly feel like that's kind of something that we have decided as USA Rugby that we are going to say in the press. It's something that we say in the women's game as well, even when it's not true, and we're actually going to talk about that in the next match. Uh, it feels like that's kind of one of our like almost Americans overseas propaganda type things of where we just like if we
Hmm.
keep saying it, it will be true. Um,
Hmm.
okay, but you don't get first of all, you don't get the kind of shuffles that you do with a coaching staff that feels like they're like totally dialed in, totally locked in. And then also you don't get kind of the disarray that Kolya was alluding to. I feel like you don't if the coaches are that locked in, or they're locked in, if they're that on the right path. It feels like don't tell me I'm stupid. Like I know what I saw.
Hmm. Kolya, what do you think?
My big, like, offensively, I could see what we were trying to do, but the selections just don't make sense. And
Hmm.
we've talked about this throughout the summer. We're
Do we
playing
think
people
do we
out of
think that they're
position.
coaching? Do we think that they are coaching though to this out of position? Because it's one thing to play people out of position. It's another thing to be like, well, at least we prepped them. They didn't
Yeah.
seem prepped.
Yes, they did not seem prepped. And I have been trying to stay away from let's sack the coaches talk over the
Yep.
summer, but that came into my head during this Canada match because they were just so lethargic. They
Hmm.
did not know what to do about Canada.
If you are going to be ballsy, if you're going to make some kind of, and this is very like American sports-esque, this makes sense for us, but like to be a little bit renegade, to be a little bit like this isn't what you're expecting, you do have to provide on it.
Mm.
Um, so the men are off next week. We're back home in Sacramento, California on September 6th to take on Japan. Japan are currently ranked 13th, while we've dropped to 18th. We will need that home field advantage. We'll obviously look more closely at this one when we see some rosters. But do either of you have sort of initial thoughts as we, slowly drag our carcass towards that match?
Wales was able to beat them, so there's always hope. And by then, Eddie Jones might have fallen out with the entire squad.
Fingers crossed.
Ugh. So I just want to take a moment to remind all of you that liking and subscribing is the best way to help us grow. If you could tell a friend or two, that would be smashing. We are part of the Global Gainline Network, and you know what? We're just generally lovely people too. So if you want to get in touch, we would love to hear from you. And thanks for all your support. So earlier in that same day on Friday, the World Cup kicked off with our Eagles facing off against the host nation. We we gave our predictions last week, and yeah, it pretty much went according to our worst fears, with England running wild, winning 69-7. Our bright spot came around the 25-minute mark with Cersei scoring a beauty. I think it was her first as an Eagle. Unfortunately, that was all she wrote. Kolya, initial reactions to this match.
I was hoping that England would come in, feel pressure, and be a bit slow, and the US would kind of front up saying, "Hey, this is our time to make a statement." But this whole first set of matches at the World Cup kind of put paid to that, as
Yes,
the favorites won every match by a lot.
by a lot.
I
It's
think
funny because
I think my
the
favorite
closest one
bit.
was France Italy, but Italy got shut out, so it kind of
Yes,
seems like it's all
yes,
Anyway.
yeah, yeah. I think my favorite bit throughout this whole first set of matches was the Brazilians chanting TMO after literally every tackle.
You would love little crossover note. This is the benefit of being on the Global Gainline Network. I can
Yes.
cross over a little bit. If you enjoy hearing much more about the behind the scenes of that
Yeah.
South Africa Brazil, hit up Women's Rugby Treehouse. We talked a
Yes.
lot about that match.
Yes.
Fantastic match. Weren't the vibes great, by the way? It's okay to
Yes.
say on a USA
Oh
podcast,
yeah.
what a fantastic time. Like,
Mhm.
even though it was a drubbing, it was so fun to watch the Brazilians.
Yes.
Nice palate cleanser.
Yes.
Julia, what about you? Tell us about your reactions sort of as this sad saga unfolded.
So I think we set it up well in our preview, honestly. What I am disappointed by is that a lot of what we all thought that we saw building towards, and I'm not ready to say that it didn't happen or anything, but it certainly fell apart here. It did feel to me like a completely unforeseen uh we knew it would be a loss. It didn't need to be this big. There were a lot of malfunctioning parts, and it was all the way across the pitch. That's really not what you want to see. It was, and we said so, in nicer terms. We said so that the lineup didn't look exactly right. It A few decisions were strange. Unfortunately, a few people that we usually consider really reliable didn't perform. And overall, it just ended up being a lot of truly missed opportunities. And I really appreciate that the greater rugby world has actually talked about that match in retrospect. Luckily, most of them aren't hurting USA fans like we are.
Mhm.
A lot of them are neutrals in this game or root for England, which who cares? But but the game did expose a lot of the weaknesses in the Red Roses, which is good news because you want to see that for the rest of the cup. What really is frustrating is that, yeah, we did expose some of the weaknesses and we did not capitalize on almost any of them.
No.
Um, there were moments that were not about the Red Roses being the best team in the world and us not.
We had the dropsies. Was it? I just don't. People are like, oh, that's
Yes,
probably nerves. I don't buy that.
I
I don't
I
think these
don't at all.
Eagles go,
So
oh, I'm so nervous. It's England. No, they're professionals. They do this. This is
no,
this
and
is what they're living for.
And it's important to remember, especially for American listeners who are used to American rugby, it's important to remember that when it comes to the women's team, many of those players, including everybody who both performed well and really dropped the ball, all play in the PWR, which is in England.
Right.
We have a few players who play in other pro leagues. And by the way, the best performers that we had, Kristen Bitter is not currently in the PWR. She's going over. But Kristen Bitter, I think, had the best performance, which isn't saying much. She came off the bench. We had a lot of 10 trouble. It's great that she was there. Fantastic. It reset a lot of some of the problems that we had, but several of them couldn't be adjusted midstream. I said it on my women's podcast as well. I'll say it here. I think it was a complete waste to have Talia Brody in the second row. I think that we completely locked up all of her skills. A lot of the missed opportunities that you saw by the pack, I feel like, were lost by a malfunctioning scrum to arriving to the next phase too late. When you are facing a pack like the Red Roses, like you can't be cute. And I felt like we were trying to be cute by being like, you didn't expect this. No, they didn't, but it didn't matter. You can do that against
people always
some
talk
teams.
too. If your scrum starts to go south and the ref starts to decide, it's over. And I felt like that happened quickly.
And it really did. So that is what I wanted to talk about, because it's time for especially somebody like me to eat crow. But for example, some people that we really rely on really didn't show up. I don't want to say these are some of my favorite players, but it behooves us to say where the performances lacked, because hopefully they improve next week and then we can compare and contrast. But our front row, which is my favorite part of our team, completely malfunctioned.
Bugs Bunny would have described them as getting moidalized.
Absolutely. And that's both funny and true. There were a lot of things that you expected that we would do better, not win at, but there's a difference between being completely pummeled and winning. We, as a pod, expected that gray area because that's how we had been performing. And when you look at the performances from the warm-ups to now, everybody would have expected better. I'm hoping that this was maybe a learning experience. It also might have been that the coaches looked at this and were like, if we have any opportunity to test this against a very hard team, let's just do it here where we know we're going to lose. Okay, well, I hope you learned. I hope you know now.
Kolya, do you think there's any chance of that? Do you think, will a coach ever approach a game like this and say, like, we're going to lose, so let's just mess around?
It happens. You'd hope that it wouldn't happen during a World Cup. But I have seen this happen.
Yeah. And the thing is, when the USA women's team has not ever had the spotlight like we have now, and already had a warm welcome in England, it's the only thing I can think of, because otherwise I don't want to believe that Fuka is already messing up. I don't think that's the case.
Right.
I would like to see more than one screw up. And this one seemed like you tried, you mavericked, it didn't work.
I think my highlight came on the 53rd minute when Hannah Botterman finally got subbed out. She was absolutely gobbling us up out there. She was simply
absolutely
incredible.
There's a very good chance I think she's going to be a nominee for Player of the Year. Yeah. Botterman's having a fantastic year as it is. She had been having a fantastic year at Bears as well. Slancha, great. I can't wait to see.
We were like her greatest gift.
Exactly. Which is really unfortunate because it didn't have to be that way, I don't feel.
Kolya, if you're putting on your coaching hat, what are the 3 top things that you're going to address this week for this team?
Great question.
The front row, which hopefully should be an easy fix. 100%. The halfback partnership, which just didn't fully fire. And ruck speed would be my thing.
Which is really frustrating because ruck speed hadn't historically been a huge problem for us.
Yes.
I don't have a good, I'm really glad you pinged that, because it was something that I was trying to figure out. Was it miscommunication? Is it fitness? I don't think it's either. What is it?
Well, Julia, same question. What are your top 3 things that your work-ons this week?
Mine is also the front row, which really shouldn't be the case, so it should be an easy fix. The 9-10 partnership, 10%, 100%, sorry, absolutely correct. Which I feel like I want to defend a little bit, only because of injuries and also the way that the USA team has developed. Olivia Ortiz and Mackenzie Hawkins have not played a ton together in the 9-10 partnership. That said, you're right. Should just put Cass Bargel in. Sorry. I love Olivia Ortiz. I think she's a fantastic scrum half. I think she's learning a ton in the PWR. considering that they hadn't played as much together, and Cass Bargel and Mackenzie Hawkins had played both against and with each other in WAR, and had, I mean, I don't know about had more warm-up time, but Cass isn't off injury. Olivia is. Just put Cass in. I
We were
understand.
chatting about this during the match too, because Ortiz did get yanked a little bit
Yep.
early. It's
Yep.
that
And we
was
all thought it was the right choice.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that was the right thing to do. I hope we think more about that. And I also hope that we don't, my third would be go with in especially in specialist positions, just go with the guys you know. I think it was cool to try Gerald Cersei and Talia Brody together. It didn't work. In the second
Mhm.
row, put Hallie Tuffo back in. Hallie and Erica have played together forever. Just put it back. We'll figure out bench later. Center partnership was another thing that we have talked about before. What we saw now, I am just worried about the frustration that was seen in the back line, and that was across the back line. That wasn't just in the centers. That was all the way
Mm.
across. All the way across. And it was because there was a weird shuffle. And remember when we talked about in the preview, it was weird that Lottie Sharp was at 15.
Yeah.
It was weird that we had all of our technically specialist wingers out, both in the wing and otherwise, to have everybody there. I, I don't want to like try to say that I'm like in Alev Kelter's head and like I understand why it's happening, but she's not a player that usually has discipline problems, and now it's twice.
Yeah.
Something is
And
going wrong.
handling too. Her attitude has remained the same. Cersei, I love her energy. I love what she brings. I also love
Fantastic. It was my try. It was my try of the weekend.
yeah, and I've been mispronouncing her name. I learned this weekend, and I'm so gratified to know that she's like a mythological Greek witch. That's so much
She
better.
she is. It's well. So Erica and her wife got basically I think they eloped. They eloped like right before the World Cup because they were like, oh my god, like after the World Cup we have like our pro season. It's never gonna happen if we don't do it now. They're like, we're just gonna do it now, and like did it at whatever the equivalent of City Hall is in England.
Nice.
Yeah. And blessings to her, she now has a much better path to UK citizenship if you need to get out.
Oh, I like that.
As a giant gay woman. We hope you don't, because we love you as a New Englander.
I would. So she studied at Harvard,
Oh yeah.
same program as Cheta Emba. Were they classmates?
Yes. There was an overlap. I think Chetta is like a year older, but yeah, there was an overlap.
Okay. So next weekend, our women travel to York to face Australia, a match I felt a lot more confident about a week ago.
Which is fantastic, where you're the Duke of, apparently, as a bard.
Exactly.
Mhm.
uh, oh, that's right. Although I ripped that off from an old Steve Martin SNL routine.
Oh, I know, but I
Um,
was keeping it in the back of my mind as soon as you said that you were like whatever, Aloric of York. I was like, yeah, you are. And you're gonna be there for our game.
Nothing a good bleeding won't cure. Uh,
Oh, and we're better than rugby.
uh, Kolya, what are some keys in your mind for success for the Eagles against this Australian team? The Wallaroos, I'm officially nervous.
I was gonna say, especially coming off a win like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put this England match out of your head.
100%.
That's step one. Step two is, as Julia said, don't get cute. Just play your game and understand this is the time. If we're
You're
going to do
really
something, this is the time.
Julia,
By
what
the
about
way,
you? Go ahead.
oh, well, I was going to say, so when Australia has been asked about it, especially Joe Yap, who I think is one of the greatest coaches on the planet for women's rugby right now,
She certainly is.
she's phenomenal. And what she said, unfortunately, it was a few weeks ago. But this is the game that they're targeting. This is the game that gets them out of the pool.
Dang it.
Yeah,
I mean, she's right. She's right, of course.
she's right, and
But
I
so are
feel
we.
I feel that that is as much a boon to us as it is to Australia, because anybody who can do math can figure that out. USA is the one who needs to keep it in their mind.
Yeah. We've talked about it before, Julia. Like, I feel like we're kind of in Australia's heads a little bit, but more for the sevens. I'm hoping there's some bleed through for that.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping, I'm hoping Chetta comes off injury. I'm hoping that we get more of our 7 stars in and integrated in some way, in an effective way. Especially having watched and reflecting upon all of the matches, especially having watched Ireland. They integrate their 7 stars really well. We can do that. And we may have to. It's not the best place to be in, but it's not the time to talk about it at the World Cup. So if we need them, now has to be the time.
And
this
Julia,
has to be the weekend.
what's our biggest advantage against the Wallaroos?
It is our ability to improvise, if we use it properly, but that's really dangerous. That is my answer, but they know, and I'm not telling them anything they don't know, but you have to use it judiciously. But Australia, especially under Joe Yap, is a very systemic team. It's why it's worked so well. There are certain things about Australia that we're never going to be able to defeat. We're never going to be able to defeat that they have, like Eva Karpani. We're never going to be able to defeat the size of their pack. They are a very organized backline. That's fine. All of those can still be weaknesses. It's just harder to exploit. I don't want to make it sound rosier or worse than it is, but it's not going to be a team that is super easy to pick apart. But it is a team we know we can pick apart if we keep composure.
Kolya, if this match turns sloppy, if both teams are having trouble with discipline and with handling, who does that favor?
Probably Australia.
Unfortunately,
Darn.
I agree.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that, but you're probably right.
I hate to say it, but weather can always be a factor. I'm hoping it won't be, but maybe.
Fortunately, it never rains in England, so it should be fine.
So it's gonna be fine, especially in the late summer.
Yes.
I was really hoping Kolya would say something different.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts from this weekend? It was I'm still shaking it off. I was really disappointed. I thought one of these results would go the other way, at least, maybe both. And I just like we've been talking about, the things that I saw wrong looked inexplicably wrong.
I have to believe that USA men can pull it back together. Except I don't know how.
Kolya, any other final thoughts?
Yeah, that the second half of both games was that fun meme of a dumpster fire.
Every now and then, AJ McGinty gets that look on his face, and you're like, oh, God, this poor fellow.
Oh, here we go.
So each week, we do try to find some grassroots. None of us really came up with anything. This is kind of fake grassroots. So my pal Josh, who I met at a Free Jacks game like several years ago, he's been pursuing becoming a ref, and it's absolutely working out. I saw him officiating the Rugby Town Sevens this weekend.
We were
He
so
did a
excited
great
to
job.
see.
Yeah.
So
Shout
cool.
out, Josh.
It was awesome to see him out there. Shout out to you, Josh. Congratulations. I met Josh because he loved dressing up for the Free Jacks games, and he and his pals got these like Matrix style, like long black leather cloaks, and then emblazoned them with Free Jacks stuff. And they led all the loudest chants. They just had these voices. But then Josh wanted to get into refereeing, and they were kind of like, yeah, you can't be causing a scene like this on the weekends. And they also told him he was too fat, and he was a very slender individual. So tough industry.
It's tough. And I was
That's also weird when you've got a bunch of props who ref.
It's legal. You should let them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it's not a fat test. It's a can you run that amount test. That's all.
But that's the thing, though, is that if there's any sport in which, like, you are very surprised by the large woman who runs, or the large man who runs very much as this one,
Yes.
I don't like that story because it immediately brought to mind one of my absolute favorite I'm sure he's long retired now, but he was reffing when I was in college here in Virginia. And he was a bigger guy and he was our favorite. First of all, he never didn't keep up. He always kept up and he was a former prop. But also just like as another front rower, like it felt really nice for somebody who believed in me and who like understood my pleas. Coalition, let props ref 2025.
We were talking about theater kids earlier. Like when I was like 15, I got selected to be part of this cool little sort of traveling theater company where we were going to do Rapunzel at all these different high schools.
Yeah, you did, David.
And the director was like, David, I'm going to cast you as Prince Charming. I need you to lose 10 pounds. And I was like, well, guess what? Because you just made me Prince Charming and I'm going to gain 10 pounds.
Well, guess what? Prince Charming is thick boy.
Yeah. Prince Charming is heavy D.
Okay. And I bet you looked hot as hell. We could say that. It's our podcast.
Yeah. Still have the tights. No, I do not have the tights. It was actually the weirdest.
I was going to say, if you do have those tights, could you send them to me for the Ren Fair?
Signed. It was actually the weirdest theater experience of my life because for some reason, like we traveled around to these high schools and some high schools decided, oh, the kids will want autographs. So they made us like after the show sit at the edge of the stage and these kids would come up in a line and get our autographs. And I'm like, what? Who's this? What? So eventually I just started making up names. Like, I'd be like, thanks for coming. Eric Clapton.
Oh, I thought you were going to say David, Fat Prince Charming.
Prince Charming. Yes, but with a PH.
Yes. Oh my God, to be with the times. We're not old, by the way. We're just vintage.
Any last thoughts before we call a full lid?
So one tiny bit of grassroots is that the college 15s are starting to have their schedules come out. And those are always fun to see. Because there's more change in college 15s schedules every year than you'd think.
What's the best college rugby team in the greater San Antonio area?
That was what I was going to ask.
UTSA.
Okay.
Oh.
Fantastic. Do they have both men's and women's? And are they?
Is that yes.
Is that the Roadrunners?
Yes, the Roadrunners.
My sister-in-law went there.
Are they what? Oh, sorry. Which regional union are they?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's all right.
Yeah.
We'll put that in post.
Yeah.
Well, as always, thanks to Lee, Hugh, and all the folks at RAP. Thanks to all of you for coming along and watching or listening. We are on YouTube. We're on all the usual platforms for audio pods. We just surpassed 360 subscribers on YouTube. So if you can help out by spreading the word, that would be absolutely phenomenal. It's just so great to have you all along. We're hoping to get 500 to 500 by the end of the summer, maybe. Do us a favor, share with a friend. And of course, until next week, from all of us, cheers. Thanks to you all, and be well.
That was the Mall Street Journal. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can like us on Facebook and on Twitter and do all the usual things. More importantly, join us again next week for more of the same.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.